Well, here is a story that is being redacted by the mainstream media. Is Europe getting ready to send troops to Ukraine to fill in for those dead Ukrainians? Of course, we've been hinting at it here for quite a while with different experts we've had on our show who've been pointing that this might be the solution. Now, I point out that this is Europe we're talking about here, not NATO. Not NATO troops, European troops specifically. I know the lines can be blurry, but basically it'd be who's calling the shots here. And we can sort of absolve ourselves of the criticism of NATO if it's NATO not necessarily calling the shots. See how this works? And this is exactly what the United States wants as part of passing this $61 billion weapons package to Ukraine. By the way, Congressman Thomas Massie filmed this video, posted it on X. Now Speaker Johnson demanded he take down this video or he'll be fined. So this is the video after they passed it in the House where all these members of Congress waving little Ukrainian flags. Like, unbelievable moment here. Yes, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, doesn't want you to see all of his minions waving Ukrainian flags.
Well, specifically, the House Sergeant of Arms called for that. And
on behalf of the Speaker.
And the Speaker later clarified, actually, I don't think he'll be fined. I don't stand for that. He later clarified, I don't agree with the fine. It will not be enacted. Well, so where that came from, who knows?
Massie is not happy about it, though. He tweeted this. So who knows where it came from initially? Why would the Sergeant at Arms have a problem with this? Instead of fining Democrats for waving flags, the House Sergeant at Arms just called and said, I'll be fined $500 if I don't delete this video post. Mike Johnson really wants to memory hole this betrayal of America. I mean, regardless. Mike Johnson just sold out the American people. So frankly, it doesn't really matter where it came from. It came from that side. They don't want you to see that. This comes as we now know Ukraine is almost out of troops. U.S. military sources tell Redacted that the number of Ukrainian dead is close to 600,000 dead. Over 1 million people hurt. Now, when I say hurt, I'm not just talking about you got a flesh wound. I'm talking missing legs.
Permanently maimed.
Permanently maimed. Pain. Arms missing. Eyes missing. Ears destroyed.
This 600,000 number is so frustrating because we could never get a real handle on what they had to begin with. Because earlier this year, Zelensky said, oh, no, we have close to 1 million. They started with 200,000 or 300,000. Where did they get them? Who's telling the truth? How many of them are actually hurt? They're keeping this from us for a reason, because if we actually realized that sending them more money meant more men would get hurt, have their lives destroyed, we would stop them.
Moon of Alabama reporting that the United States will probably demand that Ukraine launch a new offensive as part of this massive weapons package. So here's what we need you to do. We're going to send you all of these weapons. We need you to act like you can do something about it. So you need to act like you can launch a new offensive. So how exactly are they going to pull this off with no troops, and those troops that are left are surrendering, as we've been reporting? Well, you don't use Ukrainians anymore. You use European soldiers to fight. Foreign Affairs magazine, which is an extension of the Pentagon and the deep state, is calling on Europe today to ready troops to deploy to Ukraine. Europe, but not NATO, should send troops to Ukraine to halt Russia's advance. Kiev needs more boots on the ground. So let's just go through this because this is a paid article. And so, you can read the first few paragraphs on your own, but I'm going to provide you with a lot of the context here so you don't have to pay for it. You could line your birdcage with this. A taboo has been broken, Foreign Affairs writes. Only a few months ago, it would have been inconceivable for European leaders to propose sending European troops to Ukraine. But on February 26th, French President Emmanuel Macron said the deployment of European forces to Ukraine could not be ruled out. Since then, other European officials have joined the chorus. The Finnish defense minister, Polish foreign minister have both suggested their country's forces could end up in Ukraine. These comments, combined with the existing support for such measures in the Baltic states, show that there is a growing bloc of countries that open to direct European intervention in the war. So Foreign Affairs, of course, like I said, a mouthpiece of the deep state. This is a lot of foreign policy decisions are born here, come out of here, and are executed from here. November, Europe will be Ukraine's only defender. European leaders cannot afford to let American political dysfunction dictate European security. They must seriously contemplate deploying troops to Ukraine to provide logistical support and training to protect Ukraine's borders and critical infrastructure, or to even defend Ukrainian cities. They must make it clear to Russia that Europe is willing to protect Ukraine's territorial sovereignty, accepting the dire reality of the situation in Ukraine, and addressing it now is better than leaving a door open for Russia to accelerate its imperial advance. Guys, if you're sort of sitting back thinking that this is not going to happen, and you're thinking that these NATO heads, these European heads, these war hawks in the Pentagon and in Congress are just going to allow Putin to move forward and capture Odessa, move past the Dnieper River, and permanently garrison those areas and turn that into full Russia, you've got another thing coming. They are not going to allow this. It is too valuable a resource area for the West that wants to use and steal those resources. They cannot allow this defeat to happen, and they won't. They've said as much. I mean, listen to what they're saying and pay attention to what they're doing. They're saying it out loud, and they're now sending $61 billion. And they're already readying another $1 billion package on top of the $61 billion. This is not going to stop. So exactly how is Europe going to send troops? Well, it's going to happen in one of two ways. Send in the troops. European forces could undertake either non-combat or combat operations. To relieve some of the pressure on Ukraine, a strictly non-combat mission would be easiest to sell in most European capitals. European forces could relieve the Ukrainian performing logistics functions, such as maintaining and repairing combat vehicles, by staying west of the Dnieper River, a natural barrier protecting much of Ukraine from Russian advances. European forces would demonstrate that they are not there to kill Russian soldiers, preempting the inevitable Russian accusation of European aggression. Or, of course, the next step is to actually go in and defend with full military might to attack Russia. And Rishi Sunak, British, in the UK, will put defense industry into war mode, he announced. So you have two choices, right? You can sit back and allow European forces to kind of go in as support forces. But of course, Foreign Affairs magazine knows that there's no Ukrainians left. So you can't just have them be support forces. They need to be frontline infantry. They need to be frontline forces to go up against Russia's advance. That's what this is amounting to. I mean, if you think for a second that these guys are going to accept some sort of a ceasefire and a peace agreement that doesn't have Russia going all the way back past the Donbass, all the way back into what was pre-war Russia, technically, I mean, they're not going to do that. They're absolutely not going to do that.
Which is so frustrating because in the last 4 months, we've seen NATO leaders starting to say, well, we won-ish because Putin didn't take over all of Ukraine. So he just got that sliver. We can call it now. So some dark forces must have come in and said, oh, no, you need to put the kibosh on that messaging. We are not going to stop until this is, till the borderline is back where it started in February of 2022. So if they were to go to peace negotiations now, people could stop dying and we could leave it as is.
But that's not going to happen.
But now they're signaling the exact opposite. So I feel frustrated because I was at least reading the tea leaves with some of those, well, at least Russia didn't win more, as a signal that maybe they would end this. But now this seems the opposite. Right. Damn it.
So in the meantime, NATO, according to reports today, NATO will likely start launching attacks, longer range weapons inside of Russia. So they're not stopping this madness. And get ready for an attack again on the Crimean Bridge. One military assessment I read today says NATO will claim these are Ukrainian attacks so that Western media will say, look, Ukraine is winning again thanks to the weapons they're firing inside of Russia, thanks to the weapons we sent them. But of course, Ukraine won't be really involved at all in that. It'll be NATO, it'll be Europe. Jens Stoltenberg says the value that we're getting is amazing in the West. We provide all the weapons, and money, and Ukraine does all of the dying. NATO wins, he says.
Even though we now, all allies, we are providing unprecedented, significant support to Ukraine, it's only a fraction of defense budgets. We speak about 2%. This is less than 0.2% of our defense, or our GDP. So, and we have no NATO soldiers in harm's way, no British, no Norwegian, no NATO soldiers at all. So by providing support to Ukraine, we help them to destroy Russian combat capabilities that could potentially be a threat against us. Support to Ukraine is not charity. Support to Ukraine is an investment in our own security, and the alternative is more expensive.
It's an investment in our own security, in our own European security, he's basically saying, in our own NATO security. All of these Ukrainians dying is an investment in us. And it's great for us as an investment, right? They get to die. We just send the money and weapons. They do all the dying, and we get the security blanket.
Oh, I feel a lot more secure with Europe not being at war.
Yeah, because think
we
about,
have a different idea of security. Can
you imagine a war? War coming to Europe again in this way? This is because they're beating the drum that, of course, Russia is going to advance and is going to take over all of Europe. That's the messaging coming out of the U.S. Congress. That's coming out of NATO. That's coming out of European leaders. So this is a terrible.
Just on what Russian posturing are they basing that on? Because it didn't look like Russia has tried to take over Ukraine, just that one area. I know there's like that initial push towards Kyiv, but then it's like where is that coming from?
Well, they assume
who's saying Russia wants to take over everything?
Oh no, there are still people saying that. There's lots of people, former State Department employees.
He means on the Russian side.
Oh no,
on the Russian side, where is Russia posturing that? That's what I want to know.
No, he even said,
where are they getting that from Russia?
I think even Putin in the interview with Tucker Carlson addressed that very issue. Right? So we have no intention of that, and it's all propaganda. Right?
Yes, he specifically said that.
But it doesn't even matter, right? It doesn't matter because they're telling you that this is their intention. They want you to believe this narrative. Craig King in our chat here in YouTube says, Clayton, I'm starting to think all the people like us who want peace must be crazies. Yeah,
it does feel that way.
It does feel. It's amazing that we're an anti-war show here at Redacted, and we're vehemently anti-war. And suddenly, I guess we're the crazy ones. It's unbelievable to me. So this is a terrible week for America. Our Congress just sold us all out on FISA, spying on Americans. Our Congress just approved an extension of the 702 provision, which allows warrantless wiretaps and spying on the United States. On TikTok ban, blaming it on China when it was really the Israeli lobby that didn't want there to be criticism of the genocide in Gaza. So we're going to ban TikTok, social media.
Giving them the power to now revoke platforms that they feel threatened by.
So they did that. They passed that in the Senate yesterday, or 2 days ago, last night?
Yesterday,
yeah. And then they're allowing billions more to Ukraine and Israel. And one of my political heroes is the uncorruptible Senator Ron Paul, of course, who ran for president. They would never let him become president. I wish he would have been president. He just published an unbelievable message about all of this. It's been cut down a little bit, so we cut out some of it just so you can see in context here. But I think we should watch all of this until the end. He's probably one of the sanest voices with this. But he says what just happened in America will go down in history as one of the worst moments in U.S. history. Listen.
When future historians go searching for the final nail in the U.S. coffin, they may well settle on the date April 20th, 2024. On that day, Congress passed legislation to fund 2.5 wars, hand what's left of our privacy over to the CIA and the NSA, and give the U.S. president the power to shut down whatever part of the internet he disagrees with. The U.S. and its allies have already sent over $300 billion to Ukraine, and the country is still losing its war with Russia. Nobody believes another $60 billion will pull a victory from the jaws of defeat. But this additional money is meant to keep up appearances until November at the expense of Americans who are forced to pay for it and Ukrainians who are forced to die for it. Speaker Johnson could not have passed these monstrosities without the full support of House Democrats, and as the majority of Republicans voted against more money for Ukraine. So in the worst example of bipartisanship, Johnson reached across the aisle, stiffed the Republican majority that elected him Speaker, and pushed through a massive gift to the warfare corporate welfare state. After the House voted to send another $60 billion to notoriously corrupt Ukraine, members waved Ukrainian flags on the House floor and chanted, "Ukraine, Ukraine." While I find it's distasteful and disgusting, in some ways it seemed fitting. Not to be outdone, the U.S. Senate on that same day passed the extension of Section 702 of the FISA Act, which not only allowed the government to continue spying on us without a warrant, but also contained new language massively expanding how they can spy on us. Many conservative voters are asking, what's the point of Republican control of the House is if the agenda is determined by Democrats? Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is reported to have bragged to his colleagues about how easily Speaker Johnson gave Democrats everything they wanted and asked for nothing in return.
Anything you guys disagree with there? I mean, it's an unbelievable moment that I think we're seeing this week, where Americans are sitting there scratching their head thinking, why do we elect these people? Why do we even go through the sham of even having an election?
Yeah.
We don't want this. We don't want you sending money to Israel. We don't want you sending money to Ukraine. We don't want you sending money to Taiwan. We don't want you passing a bill that spies on Americans. All of the polling on all of these is like 75, 80% no, 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 no. I don't know who the 20% are.
That like that, they are government employees.
They're government employees or whatever. Or they're part of the lobbying groups themselves, but we've just been sold out by our members of Congress. Let us know your thoughts on this in the comments below. And by the way, I misspoke. I said Senator Ron Paul. His son, of course, Senator Rand Paul, but that he was Congressman Ron Paul, who ran for president. So he was never actually senator from Kentucky. But anyway, an amazing human being, amazing politician, and the incorruptible Ron Paul. Excuse me.
I'm mad as snakes. I don't know what to do with that energy.
I'm furious. It's like Tucker told that story on Joe Rogan the other day, and he said he was in his kitchen talking to like a high level member of the United States Congress. I think he said, and he said he got so furious. He was like yelling, and his dogs were like freaking out because his dogs never see him yell. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've known Tucker for, I don't know, almost 15 years or long. I've never seen the guy yell. I mean, I've seen him get upset about it, but to him, he was flipping out, he said in that interview with Joe Rogan. And he was like, I'm just so furious. They're allowing this to happen. We're telling you we don't want these things to happen, and you're allowing this to happen in front of America right now. It's really troubling. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. You know, YouTube thinks that you'll actually like this next video right here. It's personalized based on your own viewing habits. So if you watch the video, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it, and we will see you next time, everyone.